Thank you for watching the listing presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. We were sitting here afterwards with Niku and Ralph. They're still right here beside me. And we were talking about the presentation. We're going, well, how was it? You know, what went well? What could have went better? What did I miss? So we have some post-presentation thoughts. So this is sort of a bonus, if you will. So one thing I wrote down here, I put, it's okay to tell the seller or buyer to say no. So in other words, don't be afraid to say, by the way, I'm going to ask you a question, and it's okay to say no. It's okay to say you think somebody's better qualified than me, right? It's okay to say you don't want to buy this house and then just tell me why. So make them comfortable with the whole idea that it's totally okay to say no. Next thought I have is Ralph mentioned after it was over, I asked what he enjoyed about it, and he said he liked how I did a number of trial closes throughout the presentation, and of course at the end a number of closes until finally they said yes. Now I understand this is a role play, this isn't a real life situation, but I've done thousands of listing presentations in my career, and that's not far off what happens in many of them, and I'll talk about the different markets in just a second. But here's the biggie. We've got to get comfortable with asking for the order. And you've got to ask for the order 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times quite often before you actually say yes. So if you look through the presentation, I asked for the order a number of the times all the way through, trying to finally get more yeses than nos. So think about a presentation. What is a logical ending to any presentation? It's asking for the order. And it is said that to this day, 80% of salespeople do not ask for the order. Another thought that I wrote down is some of you might choose to do a 2-step listing presentation rather than a 1-step listing presentation, and it makes sense. We have many of our coaching members that actually do 2 steps. So what they do is they go to the house, they have a good look at the house, the sellers take them through the house, they take lots of notes, they build some rapport, get to know them a little bit, they leave, and then they come back, whether it's the same day, a few days later, and then they do the formal presentation. Now, where would you use that? Well, if it's a unique house, you might use that. Country property, you might use that. Where would you use 1 step? Where it's easier to price homes. Or maybe you're just more comfortable with a 2-step than a 1, or you're more comfortable with a 1 than a 2. Either is okay. Do what sort of suits your personality and what will work best for you that makes you most comfortable, okay? Next thought I wrote down is this. I use statistics. And you know, I was talking about, oh, the average agent is selling 6 homes and I sold 24. I was using statistics in there that, you know, I'm selling my average listing for 99% of list price, other agents 97. Well, we've got new agents, more inexperienced agents watching this, and I understand you don't have statistics. So what I want you to do is use your company's statistics instead of using yours. So you probably work for a larger real estate company or even a smaller real estate company. Find out what statistics does your company have in terms of those numbers, and then instead of saying me, you say we. You say, you know, we are selling our homes for 99% of list price. We are selling X percentage of the listings that we take on, until you have your own statistics. Now, for the experienced agents watching this, you actually could use 3 sets of statistics. You could use your market statistics, your company statistics, and of course what? Your statistics. So anyway, just another idea I wanted to share with you. Next idea I have is this. What about post follow-up? So obviously I got the listing in this situation, but we know that doesn't happen all of the time. So how do you follow up? Well, here's what you need to do. You need to be responsible for moving the process forward. What do I mean by that? If they say to you, listen, we need to think about it, you've handled all of the objections, and you know it's time for you to go. You can't put too much pressure on people. You can't make them uncomfortable. If you make them too uncomfortable, you're never going to get the listing. And you know when that situation arises. So what you want to do is you say to them, well, when would you like me to call you back? And they might say on Thursday. You say, great, I would call you back on Thursday. Could I call you back at, say, 9 a.m.? Would that work for you? And they say yes. And what number could I reach you at that time? Because they might not be home. And decide who you're calling back. Are you calling, you know, the husband? Are you calling the wife? Or are you calling the daughter? Or the whoever you're calling back. But know specifically who you're going to call back. And the person you want to call back is who? is the decision maker. And you know after that presentation, one of those people that you're sitting with, or the number of people you're sitting with, one of them is the decision maker. That's who you want to follow up with. By the way, follow-up doesn't always have to be a phone call. It could be, why don't I stop back and see you tomorrow on my way home from work at 4 o'clock in case you have any other questions. So be responsible for moving the process forward. Don't be waiting for them to what? Call you. You call them. Next thought I have is, when it comes to pricing, obviously we were going back and forth in price, and Ralph finally, picked a number of $725, and you're probably saying, boy, that all seemed pretty easy. I understand. Every situation is different. What is going to determine price? Motivation. In other words, did they have to move? Do they have a when? Do they have a where? Do they have a why? Remember, they have a where and they have a when, they have a why. They have no when, they have no where, right? They need to have a why, and if they have no when, no where, no why, you need to say goodbye, because you're going to end up with an overpriced listing that's going to expire. Now, as a business person, does it make sense for you to take on a listing where they have lack of motivation and high price, and you know it's not going to sell? That costs you not only money, it costs you what? Time. If you're going to make an investment as a business person of your time and money, you need to get a return on that investment more often than not. You don't always know, I understand. So understand that if you want to get the right price, you're going to need somebody that's a high degree of motivation. And if they have a high degree of motivation, that means that even if you list it high, they're eventually going to come down to the right price. However, if they have a low degree of motivation, if they don't care, well, we're going to put it on the market, we're going to give it a try, and if we can win the great real estate lottery, then yeah, we're going to go buy another house. Well, you and I both know that if it's overpriced and they have no motivation, they're not going to come down to the right price. So hopefully that's helpful for you. Another thought I have is, obviously, this was a quiet setting. We've got this all staged. We've got a set all arranged here. But sometimes there's kids. Sometimes there's animals. Sometimes people are cooking. And it's hard to get everybody's attention. So a couple thoughts, and this was Ralph's idea. If the kids are there, maybe you want to bring a coloring book and crayons. Maybe you want to have an iPad that they can watch movies on. Ralph showed up at, today I have a dog, and he actually brought a treat for my dog. Obviously, he thought my dog was going to be too noisy and busy for him. But we won't get into that. But there's ways to do that. But the other option is this. You could maybe do the presentation in your office. So we're starting to see a lot of our coaching members, and instead of doing it at the house, they actually get the people come to the office, they inspect the house first, and then they have them stop by on their way home from work and do a more formal presentation. So do your very best to get yourself in a position where you can have the attention of all of the homeowners. Hopefully that'll help you a little bit as well.